digestion is very important to anybody who wants to make gains, muscle gains, or what the heck's going on here? Hold on a second. Anyone who wants to make muscle gains or increase muscle strength, you have to have good digestion. And there's a couple of things you can do to improve your digestion. I also want to talk briefly about digestive aids to see if they help. A lot of people over the years who I've spoken to apparently have digestive problems. These digestive problems could include things like upset stomach, excessive gas, also known as flatulence. You don't want to be around those kind of people. Heartburn, nausea, constipation, and diarrhea. Right on the onset, I'll tell you that the main reason, let's talk about one of these right off the bat, constipation. The main cause of constipation, and this is very common in bodybuilders and people involved in fitness, is not enough fluid intake and also not enough dietary fiber intake. And now I've gotten into arguments with people about dietary fiber. I'm not going to talk too much about dietary fiber except in this video, except briefly. But a lot of these people are completely brainwashed into believing that there's no need to ingest any type of dietary fiber. They say there's no nutritional requirement for it, and nothing happens if you don't consume dietary fiber. This is a belief of a lot of people who follow the so-called carnivore diet, which consists mostly of eating animal protein foods with very little fiber. Well, the truth of the matter is there's a plethora. I mean, oh my God, I couldn't even imagine the number of studies attesting to the health benefits of consuming dietary fiber. And I'm just going to say one benefit. You have your intestinal microbiome, which is a collection of bacteria, fungi, and all various organisms that reside in the large intestine. The intestinal microbiome controls thousands of body processes from head to toe, and it needs dietary fiber to thrive. I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, as far as dietary, you can get it from certain supplements. If you take a large dose of magnesium, when I say large dose, I'm talking anywhere over 200 milligrams of any magnesium, especially magnesium oxide, you're going to get a pretty quick case of diarrhea because the magnesium draws a lot of fluid into the intestines. It can happen like within 20 minutes. And by the way, almost any form of magnesium will stimulate you to basically to go to the bathroom, because that's just all of them draw a little bit of fluid, regardless of what you might hear. I mean, I've seen articles. They say some forms of magnesium are less likely to cause diarrhea than others. That's nonsense. Any form of magnesium, if you take it over 200 milligrams, is going to cause diarrhea very fast. So how do you improve your digestion? The one thing you want to do is avoid processed foods, because processed foods, they cause gut inflammation. They cause an inflammation of the gut, which inhibits or interferes with digestion and the absorption of nutrients. So you want to eat only natural, unprocessed food, fruits, vegetables, lean meat, that type of thing. When you have an inflammation in your gut, it impairs the barrier function of your intestines. It leads to increased gut permeability, or what they call leaky gut syndrome, and that can contribute to systemic inflammation, which can cause a whole bunch of health problems. Another problem with processed foods is some of them contain really garbage ingredients. An example of this is trans fats. Trans fats are an unnatural fat, although some trans fats do exist naturally, such as in dairy foods. CLA is a good form of trans fat, but the processed trans fats, which are listed on food labels as partially hydrogenated oils, are absolute garbage. One of the worst things you could eat. The FDA banned trans fats in 2018, but small amounts still exist in many processed foods. You can tell by looking on the ingredient list. If you see anything that says hydrogenated vegetable oil, hydrogenated soybean oil, anything like that, that's trans fats. And even if it says trans fats free, don't eat it. Don't eat it. It's very bad. Some people consider sugar alcohol, such as xylitol and erythritol, bad, but the truth of the matter is xylitol and erythritol. I did a recent video on erythritol, and it's actually very good for you. So is xylitol. I'm on a special dental program, which I've been on for several years, for about 9 years. I outlined it in the first year I wrote my Applied Metabolics. I did a complete article. It's called Kiss Your Dentist Goodbye. And the special dental program involves 4 items, with the main one being xylitol. Because if you put xylitol in your mouth, the bacteria that cause tooth decay and gum disease, they mistake it for sugar, and they die off. If you do this for a couple of months, the bad bacteria in your mouth die off, and there goes all your dental problems. They disappear. There's no gum recession, there's no cavities, nothing. But the good part is that this doesn't affect the good bacteria. The good bacteria in your mouth you need for the conversion of nitrate that you get in vegetables and beet juice into nitrite, which is converted into nitric oxide. Whole different topic. I'm not going to get into it. The only problem with sugar alcohol is if you eat too much. If you ingest more than, let's say, 50 grams of xylitol, you can get bloating and diarrhea. 75 grams of erythritol cause the same symptoms in about 60% of people. But those are pretty large amounts. The only time I've ever had a problem with sugar alcohol is I once purchased this ice cream that was supposedly carbohydrate free. It had only 4 grams of what they call net carbohydrates. What that means is it had much more carbohydrate than that, but most of the carbohydrate in this, if you want to call it diet ice cream, was composed of sugar alcohol. And I can't remember which one it was, but sorbitol, I think it was. I ate too much of it, and it gave me a whopping case of diarrhea. I mean whopping, for hours. I probably made me a little dehydrated, but that's the only time I had a problem. And small amounts of sugar alcohols are fine. Some people think that artificial sweeteners can adversely affect the gut microbiome. That's been shown in animal studies. The human studies to prove that are not very good, and not really that I wouldn't call them effective. So you want to avoid processed foods. And as I said earlier, very important for digestion, you got to get fiber. There's 2 kinds of fiber. Soluble fiber, found in fruits and some vegetables. Oats is a form of soluble fiber. Beans, legumes, these contain soluble fiber. Whole unprocessed wheat bran would be insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber is the type of fiber that helps you have regular bowel movements. It prevents constipation. Soluble fiber does a number of other things. It helps to lower blood fats like cholesterol. It's also that's the primary food for the intestinal microbiome. But if you really want to be healthy, you want to ingest both types of fiber. Soluble fiber is also insoluble fiber. Food sources include whole grains, nuts, and seeds. Fruits and vegetables contain both soluble and insoluble fiber. Now, what the government or the official, whatever it is, diet association, they suggest an intake of 25 grams of fiber for women between the ages of 19 and 50. For males between the ages of 19 and 50, the recommended dietary intake of fiber is 38 grams. Most people, I remember when I years ago did an article on fiber, I found that the average intake of fiber is only 14 grams, which is very bad for health. Very bad for health. That's going to really blow up in your face sooner or later. 38 grams is the minimal amount. The people that have, let's say, lower rates of diseases such as colon cancer, they consume actually much higher amounts of fiber. I once added up my fiber intake. Haven't done it recently, but just for the hell of it, I added up both my fiber intake from food, and I also took some fiber supplements such as hydrolyzed guar gum and psyllium seed. I added that to my fiber intake. I was taking in 60 to 70 grams of fiber, and the only side effect I had was, and I'll be blunt about it, it makes you go to the bathroom a little bit more than usual, but there's nothing, no big deal. It doesn't give you constipation or diarrhea. It prevents constipation. A high fiber diet has been linked to a reduction of a number of digestive diseases, including constipation, inflammatory bowel disease like colitis, and colorectal cancer, like I said earlier. So you also want to ensure, if you want to have good digestion, you want to make sure you eat enough what they call healthy fats. Healthy fats are fats such as omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids in research has been shown to reduce your risk of developing inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis, which definitely interferes with nutrient uptake and digestion. There are basically two types of omega-3. One is alpha-linoleic acid, which is a precursor for the bioactive forms of omega-3, which is EPA and DHA. I'm only using the acronym EPA and DHA because eicosapentaenoic acid and deoxysapentaenoic, they're very hard to pronounce. So let's just call them EPA and DHA. Those are the really important omega-3 fatty acids, and the best sources of that are fatty fish like salmon, tuna, mackerel, and sardines. So you want to concentrate. I would say also monounsaturated fats, such as found in extra virgin olive oil. That's a pretty good fat source itself. It has a number of health benefits I'm not going to get into in this video. I've discussed it in detail in my Applied Metabolics publication. Suffice to say that extra virgin olive oil has a lot of health benefits. It can be, or I should say, monounsaturated fats, as found in extra virgin olive oil, have a number of health benefits. They're also found in nuts, and they're very good for you. They're a good source of fat. As far as saturated fat, a lot of people will call that the evil fat. It all depends on the rest of your diet. If you're eating a lot of carbohydrates and you're also eating a lot of saturated fat, excuse me, that's a prescription for gaining body fat. People get fat not just from eating, not just carbohydrate, not just from eating fat, but from eating too much carbohydrate and fat. When you eat a lot of carbohydrate and a lot of fat, the fat you eat is not going to be used as energy. It's going to be stored as body fat because the body prefers carbohydrates as a primary energy source. You also, as I said earlier, you want to make sure that you're hydrated, because if you're dehydrated, that's the most common cause of constipation, which is very bad for digestion, and that doesn't make you feel good at all. I remember there was a guy years ago when I worked for the bodybuilding magazines. I was covering a contest called the Night of the Champions. One of the leading contenders to win the title, after the prejudging, he called me to his room. Apparently he was having problems. He told me he was going to have to withdraw from the finals because he was severely constipated. And what he did is he restricted fluid intake, and he not only restricted fluid intake for 2 days before the contest, but he also took diuretics the night before the contest to try and get rid of as much water. That, plus the lack of fiber, led to absolutely, this guy was literally plugged up. He was extremely uncomfortable. So, make sure you consume enough water, and be aware that fruits and vegetables are 90% water. They count too. Fruits and vegetables that are high in water include cucumber, broccoli, strawberries, apples, and oranges. You want to also manage your stress, because stress can have a negative impact on digestion. Stress has been associated with stomach ulcers, diarrhea, constipation, and irritable bowel syndrome. Actually, the main cause of stomach ulcers is a bacterium called H. pylori, but stress can make it worse. The stress also has negative effects on the intestinal microbiome, which is involved in the uptake and digestion of carbohydrate, fat, and protein. There's various ways to include stress management, meditation, relaxation training, cognitive behavioral therapy. Some people like yoga. All of these have been shown to improve digestion, believe it or not. Also, when you eat, you want to pay attention to what you eat. In other words, you don't want to shovel the food down. You want to eat slow. I wrote about a study a couple of years ago. I was from Japan, where they had these people. They divided them into two groups. One group ate slowly. What they did is they ate a bite of food. They put the fork down. They chewed the food thoroughly before eating the next bite of food. It took them about maybe 20 minutes to eat the meal. The other group just ate there was no limit. They just ate as fast as possible. They never put the fork down. They shoveled the food down. At the end of the study, the people that had ate slowly lost much more body fat and also consumed less calories, because it takes about 20 minutes for the intake of food, the signal to reach your brain to turn off your appetite. So if you shovel food down, you're going to wind up eating more calories, and you're putting a stress on your digestive system. So pay attention to how fast you eat. You want to chew your food. There was a guy in the at the turn of the let me see, I guess it was in the late 19th century or early 20th century, named Horace Fletcher, and he believed that if you chewed each piece of food for 100 times, you would not only improve your health, you would drastically improve your digestion, and you would even increase your longevity. And this guy was like a kind of a living example. He was doing things when he was 70 years old, like, physical feats that were literally impossible for most men of his era. It started a fad where people were chewing food for extended times. Among those who were involved in Fletcherism were the then President of the United States, William Howard Taft, who was one of the fattest presidents. I'm not sure who was fatter, Taft or Donald Trump, but they were both pretty fat guys. Maybe Taft had an edge because he had to have a special bathtub brought into the White House. He couldn't fit into normal bathtubs. Another interesting factoid about Taft is he lost a lot of weight. His doctors warned him his blood pressure was too high, so they put him on a then very rare diet. It turned out to be a low carbohydrate diet. They put William Howard Taft on a low carbohydrate diet, and he lost 60 pounds of fat, believe it or not. And this was like 1910. This is years and years ago. So you want to chew your food thoroughly. Again, it's very important. Chewing actually even reduces stress. Exercise, physical activity, very important for helping your digestion. When you exercise, you actually help move the food. You increase what they call gastric motility or intestinal motility, which is the movement of food through the stomach and intestine. One thing I would advise against, though, is eating a large meal right before you work out. I've seen this very often in the gym. I will see people literally eat a complete meal and they go right onto the gym floor. And I asked one guy why he did that. Why did he eat and immediately go onto the gym floor and start working out? He says because he needed the energy to train. This guy was a moron who actually had no concept of what digestion is. You don't digest something as soon as you put it in your mouth. A meal can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to digest, depending on fat content, fiber content. But even a protein drink takes 45 minutes to digest. So don't eat a big meal. You can have like a little protein bar. You can have a protein drink or a carb drink about 45 minutes to an hour, but not a full meal before you train. But exercise definitely helps improve digestion. There's no question about it. What else? You don't want to smoke. Smoking is associated with gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD, where the stomach contents come up and they can cause a irritation of the esophagus, and it can actually is associated with the development of a type of cancer. Esophageal cancer is associated with smoking. That's how the actor Michael Douglas got esophageal cancer. He was a heavy smoker and a heavy drinker. Smoking will reduce esophageal reflux. Also, you want to be careful of alcohol intake. Too much alcohol increases acid production in the stomach, and it can lead to heartburn, acid reflux, and stomach ulcers. It's been excessive alcohol consumption has been associated with bleeding in the gastrointestinal tract, and it also induces harmful changes in the gut bacteria. Some people think it's not good to eat right before you go to sleep because laying down in some people can lead to heartburn and indigestion. Maybe you want to, leave some time. If you have an evening meal, give yourself about 2 hours at least before you go to sleep. So there are certain nutrients that are good for digestion. Probiotics, which are found in fermented foods like sauerkraut and miso, and certain yogurts. They also seem to improve the intestinal bacteria, which helps digestion. Glutamine is very important for gut health. The cells that line the intestine use glutamine as a primary fuel, and they break down every 3 days. Every 3 days, the lining of the intestine has to be, replaced, and it uses glutamine as a primary fuel to help replace the cells in the gut lining. Zinc is also important. It's been shown, studies have shown it's beneficial in treating diarrhea, intestinal inflammation, increased gut permeability, and other digestive issues. You only need to take about 11 milligrams a day to meet the recommended daily requirement. So I think that's about it. Yeah, I'm at 20 minutes here, so that's about just a brief word on. A lot of people ask me about digestive enzymes, whether they're of use. I know that a lot of people involved in bodybuilding and weight training and athletes like to take digestive enzymes. Are they of benefit? The answer to that is yes, they are if you're having digestive problems. If you tend to, let's say, eat even a normal sized meal and feel bloated right afterwards, digestive enzymes definitely might help that. If you've had problems digesting fat, some people have a little problem digesting fat. Well, the digestive enzymes usually have what they call lipases, which are fat digestive enzymes. Some of them even have forms of bile, like ox bile, that's included in the digestive enzyme formula. Both of those will help emulsify and break down this fat into smaller globules, which allow the body to more easily digest the fat. So digestive enzymes, again, are, but I should also point out your body every day produces something like 2 quarts a day in the pancreas. The digestive organ, the pancreas, produces about, if I remember correctly, about either a quart or 2 quarts, I don't remember offhand, of what they call digestive juice, which is loaded with digestive enzymes. So for that reason, unless you're having a specific problem digesting food or bloating after a meal, most people do not need digestive enzymes. Your body produces an abundance. In some cases, some people might even need to take hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is produced in the stomach. It's very important for digestion, particularly of proteins and absorption of minerals. The type of acid produced in the stomach is hydrochloric acid. It's produced in what they call the parietal cells of the stomach. And as people get older, these parietal cells tend to atrophy and produce less acid. And this is one of the reasons why older people have more problems with digestion. If you feel that you're having a little bit of a problem in that sense, especially if you're over 40, you could take supplements such as betaine HCl, not the regular betaine, but betaine HCl, which is an oral form of hydrochloric acid, which might help improve protein digestion, especially if you're over 40 and having problems in that regard. So that's about it for this video. If you want more information on nutrition, exercise science, ergogenic aids, hormonal therapy, anti-aging research you can use today. What else? Exercise science, nutrition, ergogenic aids, effective fat loss technique, women's health and fitness, many more topics. My Applied Metabolics covers more topics than any digital publication on the internet. It comes out every month on the first of the month. It's 30 to 45 pages each month. No ads. I'm not trying to sell you anything other than the publication itself, which is not expensive. Costs less than a cup of latte. You get one of those fancy coffee. What is it called? Starbucks. Their coffees are more expensive than a month of my publication. Everyone's raising their rates. I'm one of the least expensive publications that you'll find. There's a lot of other publications. They cover nutrition and they cover exercise science. They're pretty good. The people that are producing them are not writers. I'm not trying to be critical, but these are not very readable in the sense that they tend to be overly technical because they're written by academics. These are guys that studied, let's say, as exercise physiology in school, and they were trained to write in an academic style. They use highly technical terms that most people don't understand without a science background. You won't find that problem in Applied Metabolics because I've been a writer for now, I guess it's been about 45 years. I don't know how many articles I have published. I lost count. It's got to be something like 10,000 over the years, So I have a lot of writing experience. I know how to write for the public. As I said, I wrote for magazines for magazines themselves for 35 years, most of the major bodybuilding magazines. So my articles are very easy to read. If you went as far as the 6th grade in school, you won't have any problem reading them. And even if you don't know how to read, you can use one of the read apps that are available free on the internet that'll read the article to you. So there's no excuse, even if you can't read. I'm hoping that people watching this video, I hope none of you are those people who can't read. I feel, I don't know what to say, a person illiterate in 2023, that's pretty bad. But anyway, what can I think a lot of the problems today, this is just a little rant here, I think a lot of the problems today are caused just by that, by people not reading anymore. Years ago, I think people read a lot more, they were more educated, they were able to see through BS. Today, they rely on the internet as a major source of information, and it leads them astray. They listen to bullshit TV like Fox News to get their information, and they get all confused and mess up, and they wind up doing things that hurt themselves, like voting for politicians that want to pass laws that hurt them. So if people read more and educated themselves, there'd be much less of a problem, but sadly that doesn't seem to be the case. So don't be a fool like those people. Read and learn, because knowledge is power. And you will get a lot of knowledge and power by subscribing and reading my Applied Metabolics publication. It's at www.appliedmetabolics.com. When you subscribe, if you send me an email, I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where each day I post new information on nutrition, exercise, and general medicine. It's like having a second newsletter, but that's only for current subscribers of Applied Metabolics. I have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics webpage, again, only for current subscribers, who can send me short questions about anything they read in Applied Metabolics or anything related to nutrition and exercise, and I will answer that as a bonus and appreciation for their subscription to Applied Metabolics. So that's about it. I can't think of anything else to say. If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, go to your local shelter and adopt a dog. Thank you for listening.